All right.
All right, man.
And we're live. Steven Storey. It's taken a while.
My
bad. No problem. No problem. Well, listen, I'm glad we finally got a chance to catch up because it actually gave me a little bit more time to do a little bit more reading and find out a little bit more who you are as we became friends. And you were definitely someone that I wanted to share with other people that I knew, because one of the things I take pride in is putting good people together, getting people in contact with each other, getting people who need to hear their stories, in front of people who want to listen to their stories. And you've done quite a bit. But I want to link to something that you said before on Twitter. And I want to go back to this because it was something that linked to a podcast show we did on education. And it also links to something we're going to do future in the education. I'm going to read you what I'm going to quote you. You ready?
Okay.
Why licenses are important and can be very profitable for you. You said, and I quote, personally, I have 4 licenses: a real estate license, an insurance license, an insurance adjusting license, and a bail bonding license. Now, here's the important part. Ready? Back to the reading. The cost to acquire each is quite low when compared to a college degree. Mm-hmm. And I want to make sure I'm understanding what you're saying. First, let me back up. Do you have a college degree?
No.
Okay. So what you're saying is that you feel as if one or all of those degrees gives you the same or as much opportunity as an education, formal education would?
Oh, yeah, man, for sure. For sure. Probably you have a higher ceiling in each one of those, actually.
Please go in. I want to hear your thoughts on this, because I'm one of those curmudgeonly people who believe that for most Americans, especially Black or brown Americans, that we don't have the luxury of not having university education. However, I've been told that a lot of my views are antiquated. And before we go into anything else, I want to hear more about that.
Yeah. So I got all my licenses by the time I was 26. I think I had all 4. I had 3 of them by the time I was 21. So I had all those licenses in school. So I was still in college at that time. None of those licenses cost over $600 to acquire. And from my standpoint, I believe that sales is probably one of the easiest things. Well, not the easiest thing, but it has the lowest barrier of entry. And so when you sell insurance or real estate, or you're a bail bondsman, which is another form of sales, you're dealing with high ticket items that you can get if you're not a felon and you have a high school diploma. So you have your license to sell things that cost up to millions of dollars on the real estate side, and you can make some serious commissions there. And I think that if somebody would have started at 19 or 20 and stick with it, their income can grow at a much faster rate than if that same person became, an accountant or something like that, or a teacher, or another professional, another degree type of job.
Now, I say this because I came from an insurance background. A lot of people know me because I got quite a bit of my financial freedom, as we'll say, working as a professional, financial professional who focused on life insurance, disability insurance, mutual funds, annuities, and things like that. And I did that for about 9 years. And I never saw that as a replacement for my university ed level education. I just thought of it as a great addendum.
It can be that. Yeah.
But I also have to look at when I graduated. I'm Generation X, and we had a lot of opportunities in the economy that other people don't. But I do tend to agree, from what I know of working in that industry particularly, and this is something I wish more Black people would get into, would be the insurance industry, because it's based on relationships, and it's based on your ability to have a good reputation with the people in your communities, no matter what these communities are. But starting from 20-something years old, that's a great way to get into it.
Yeah.
But I still feel as if, especially from a lot of my international experience, having that formal university education opens corporate doors for you that ordinarily would be closed. And that's a portable skill. See, the university level education, it's portable. I can go anywhere in the world and that's going to be universally recognized. Even if I have to get it apostilled, or if I have to get it somehow validated to prove that it's real, which is not a problem. Everywhere I go, having a university level education opens doors for me that would have been closed otherwise. Have
Yeah.
you ever encountered that? I mean, I don't, because you travel a bit, and you and I met via Brazil, and what is quickly becoming your love.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. You just said like three things there. But I'm gonna stick to one. So the first thing was, so I worked internationally in insurance. So even without a degree, I still got a work permit and a work visa to work outside the United States in insurance. But I also have 10 years experience in the business. So it's not something that would just happen for most people. But I haven't had an issue thus far with getting a job outside the United States when I needed one. But also for you and I, me and you are anomalies in that we are both expats. Uh, Most people aren't going to be expatriating in the United States, and the ones who do, I don't know how much our college degree plays in that role. Because some people might go the online route; they want to make their money online. Some people might go another route where they're working in the country they're also living in. So it's a lot there. But I don't discount what you're saying that I do believe that college does give you a level of pedigree. It gives you a pedigree and it socializes you in a way that you need to excel at a certain level in fields like insurance.
And to be clear to anyone listening, though he and I disagree, I want to be clear to everyone listening. This is something Stephen may be too modest to say about himself, but he's an extraordinarily successful man. He wouldn't be talking to me here if he wasn't. Now, he might be a little coy about saying it, but the only reason I feel comfortable having this discussion with him is because he's shown us the receipts. Because I checked his paperwork before I ever allowed myself to become someone that I felt like I could, let him become part of my social service and network and do all those things. I checked the receipts, and he's legitimate.
Oh yeah,
we have some friends in common, but you may not know it.
yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's a very small world.
It's
Or
a
as
small
they say,
country, man.
yeah. Well, as I say, as my older mentors would say to me, it's lonely at the top. When you become good at something, there aren't that many other people who are good at anything, so we tend to know who each other are.
No, you're right. You're right. You're right about that. And that's something I was talking to my friend in California about that, man. I was saying that as black men, the first time I made six figures, man, I didn't know what to do. I'm like, what do I hang out at? Like where do I go eat at? Where do I, what kind of clothes do I need to wear? What side of town do I need to live on? I didn't know. And I had to go ask some friends that were doing that. They were a little bit older than me. I'm like, man, what am I supposed to do now? Because there's not a real blueprint for that.
Well, you learn.
Oh yeah, I learned. I figured it out. But when I first did it, I was like, my dad he told me this a long time ago, and he said, son, you have a choice to make as a black man. Either you're gonna be successful and be around a bunch of white people, or you're not gonna be successful and be around a bunch of black people. So the choice is yours. And so
that's a painful thing to hear.
But it's the truth, right? As we go higher in our income, as we go higher in our education, as we go higher in basically every area of life, there's less black people. So it's a double-edged sword, right?
I'm gonna have to chew on this one for a minute, because I don't know if there are fewer of us on the successful side of life because we just believe there aren't that many of us there.
I mean, the numbers tell us who's there, right? And so most of us aren't at very high income levels. Most of us aren't at very high educational levels, and it's a number of reasons why, and it's not all their fault. But there are decisions that have to be made as you go about, achieving success.
That's going to be one of those things. Let me chew on that.
Yeah.
I understand what you're saying, and I see validity in some of what you're saying. However, I do understand where you're coming from. I want to go to something else that you've done. And by the way, what I want you to do is, when we're done, underneath in the comments, I want you to link to all the things that you talk about. I want you to link to articles that might tell people a little bit more about each one of those licenses and how it may be.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah.
But how do those licenses play together? Because I understand the insurance industry and I understood real estate, but you're a bail bondsman?
Yeah, so bail bonds actually is insurance. It's surety bond. So we're actually bail bonding is backed by the insurance industry nationwide in the United States. So it's basically insurance surety that's written to the courts. So when we go to pick somebody from jail and they have a $50,000 bond, they get out because of the insurance industry. I write my name to a check that has Bankers Insurance or some other insurance company on it. I write a check for however much that bond amount is. So the bond amount is $50,000. I write that check to the city of Montgomery, city of Atlanta, city of wherever. I get that person out of jail. If they skip court, the court cashes that insurance check for $50,000, and the insurance company holds me on the hook for paying them back $50,000 or putting that person back in jail, and then the courts give that money back to the insurance company.
So when they run, do you kick in their door and slap them around and put cuffs on them and drag them home?
Man, I got a million stories, man. It's not like that.
Give us a couple. Give us
man.
a couple.
Okay, so y'all, as y'all can see, I look young, but I'm 31. But this was like 8 years ago, so I looked even younger then than I do now. And so a lot of guys didn't really take me that serious. And so what I would do is, bounty hunters are probably some of the, you don't want to deal with bounty hunters, okay? Like, it's more than what you see on television. These guys are not that fun to be around. They're super intense, and they do a lot of gray area type of things with the law. And so what I learned to do was I learned to trick people into getting them back in jail. So
how do you trick somebody to going back to jail?
Look, man, you gotta act, man. You gotta like literally act. Okay, so I had a cat, man. He was probably like 20 at that time. I was 22, and he had skipped court twice on me, so I had to get him in jail twice. So 2 separate times I had to lie to him. So I told him something like, "Hey, man, you skipped court, and they're gonna fire me, man. Like, I need you to come up here and just tell them that you're not gonna skip court." I told him some lie like that, and
Wow.
And so he was like, "Man, Steve, I'm gonna do it for you, dog. I got you, bro. I got you." So he comes to my office. My bounty hunter is like in the other room. We locked the front door, and then like we lock him up the first time, and so I still gotta lock him up again because he misses court like consecutive, like in a week span. So he gets locked up the first time. I lied to him once, and so somehow I get him to my office. No, this is what happened the second time. I hit him up. I was like, "Hey, man, it's gonna be like I needed like $150 from because I got him out of jail after I put him back in jail." Which you can
Wait. You got him out of jail.
Correct.
He ran.
Correct.
You got him back in jail.
Correct.
And you got him out again.
I get him out again. So he hasn't missed the second court date yet. Okay.
So
now, again,
let me make this simple as if I am a child.
All right.
You touched the snake bit you.
Correct.
You didn't die, but the next day you went to play with the same snake.
All right. So in bail bonding, risk is based on the dollar amount of the bond and the person that signed off on the bond. So in this case, it was his mother. She was a bus driver, and his father was a police officer. So I didn't have an issue getting him out of jail because I knew his parents were good for $1,000. That's how much the bond was for. But I need to get him back in jail. So the parents came to me. I was like, "Hey, can you get him out again?" I said, "That's fine," because he never really gave me any problems. It wasn't like he ran to another state. He just missed court, which happens. So I get him out the first time. And so anyway, this is the second go around. So the second time is much harder. So the second time I had to make up some elaborate lie about meeting. I was like, "Hey, man," because I had to figure out where he worked at because I couldn't get him back to my office the second time. So I'm like, I just had to talk to him for a second, like, "Yeah, man, blah, 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 blah. How you doing, bro?" Just a bunch of chit chat. And I was like, "Where you work at again?" He's like, "Yeah, man, I work over here at such and such, such and such." So he tells me where he works at. I send it to my bounty hunter. My bounty hunter goes and he picks him up from jail. He picks him up from his job at work and takes him to jail. So it's a lot of cunning that goes along with it.
So are you really smart, or are these people really stupid?
I'm pretty smart, man.
Okay. Okay.
They're not stupid. These people aren't stupid, man. They're normal people. They're not like, some dumb criminal. These are regular people. So you gotta like really kind of guide them into what you want them to do, when especially when you deal with bounty hunting, So you gotta make everything just super easy, chill, like ain't nothing about to happen.
Well, I'll tell you. I'm going to give you a phrase, and we're going to play freedom of conscience. I want you to tell me the first thing that comes to your mind when I tell you this, and I'll give you the backstory later. Skip tracing.
Bounty hunters. Bounty hunters, man. That's the first thing that comes to mind.
One of the most interesting and terrifying clients I ever had was a woman who was a skip tracer, and I didn't understand her job. She says, listen, I want you to come to my office, and I'll show you what I do. She sits in front of her computer. She says, listen, your name is YusefWateef. She said, Wateef is a very uncommon name, so I'm not even going to use that. She showed me in the course of 30 minutes how many different ways she could find who I was, who my family was, where we worked, where I'd worked, where I had lived before. She pulled up high school records just based off my first name in a city. She said, now this is what I can do with a half an hour just to show off legally. Imagine what I can do to find someone who's really paying me to do it. And her job was, before bounty hunters know what door to kick in, she's the person that tells them where they are. And she does it from a computer.
Yeah, man, it's wild, man. They got apps. Like, okay, so you remember, it's like 6 or 7 years ago where people would send you like text message links and it'd be like to a video game or like some app on your phone. So the bounty hunters have these, like a skip tracer type of app that masquerades as a video game, but it actually shows your location and where you are and all these other things, right? And that's how they would get criminals. They would send them a random link to go play like, Words with Friends or, one of those Candy Crush kind of games. And they would get people back in jail based off of that, man. It's crazy. A lot of crazy stuff, man. But I can talk about bail bond all day, man. I got a lot of crazy stories from there.
Wow. Well, let's take another turn, and I'm going to have a lot of fun quoting you to you.
Okay.
And I want to get your take on this. First, here's the read, quoting you. Y'all crying about this Central Park 5 movie on Netflix, but if it had happened today with #MeToo and the ideology that the victim should always be believed, y'all would probably be asking for the death penalty for those 5 boys, just like Trump did in the 80s.
Correct.
Did I misquote you?
Nope, that's exactly what I said. Yeah, that's correct.
Can you tell the people watching a quick synopsis of the Central Park 5 to give us some context to what you just said?
All right, so Central Park 5 is a textbook example of black men, or in this case, black boys, being assumed to be rapists against white women. So this is one white woman, 5 black boys. She gets assaulted in Central Park. They round up 38 kids. 5 of these boys admit to assaulting this woman, raping this woman. Turns out they never had a lawyer. They never had the things they needed. The kids do some time in jail. Then after some years, DNA frees these guys as being it because they were innocent.
Now, go ahead. I want you to tell me how you connect that with the Me Too movement.
Well, all right. So in the 80s, we're still leaving the civil rights era. We're still leaving an era of overt racism. And so the ideology was that black men were bad and black men were hypersexual. Now, the left, the progressives, have picked up the same concept that men are hypersexual and that all victims should be believed and that there's got to be hell to pay for men assaulting women. So the same outcome happens. Because any man that's doing anything wrong to a woman now is getting held to the fire. So how could we assume that we would somehow get this right now, as opposed to what happened in the 80s? Because right now, sexual assault is on the is at the top of the Western world's consciousness. So if 5 black boys beat up and raped a white woman in Central Park in 2019, they will be like off with their heads right now, no trial. You know, that's what our public opinion is like. Because again, guys, we didn't have social media back then, but social media can ramp up things in a way that we've never seen. Look at what happened with Jussie Smollett. Jussie Smollett, in 2005, if that happens, that's a non-story. You're not even thinking twice about that. You know, it might hit the headlines for a day, and that's it. People were looking all over for these 2 white guys who beat this guy up. Okay? Now, you tell me the same thing happens in Central Park in 2019? 5 black boys, 1 white woman? The Me Too movement will be having a field day with this.
Wow.
And if you, I mean, like, and I don't see how we don't see a correlation.
No, you know what? You made an excellent correlation. You made a valid correlation. You're right. They'd be dead right now. They'd be executed, because I just had a great conversation about critical thinking. And, you know, one of my keys to success was one of my mutant abilities is that I ask uncomfortable questions. Most people understand the social taboo against asking for things like, I've committed myself to a life of what I call critical thinking. You know, I studied some of the greatest thinkers in the world, and one of the advantages they always said you can give yourself is if you can remove yourself as a man from emotion and ask the important questions, regardless of whether or not anyone likes them. People may not like you as much, but they tend to respect your thinking process. And so I've always asked for evidence, no matter who said what. One of the conversations I had in a group you and I are in that I don't want to talk about online, because people in that group, I respect that privacy. Someone advocated for summary beating and execution of someone who had committed a crime. And I said, I hope when they catch this guy, he gets his day in court, just like everyone else would. Because once you advocate the summary beatings, the summary executions, it will consistently be people who look like me and you, Stephen, who get the brunt of it.
Correct.
It's easy to say that the racists who shoot black people should be shot dead in the street. But why don't we want them to have their day in court and simply advocate for everybody to get their day in court, so that no one feels comfortable making those summary judgments? Because like you said, if the Central Park 5 happened today, they wouldn't even make it to court. They'd be murdered in the street simply for an accusation.
Yeah, man, it doesn't matter if they're 14 or 15 or 16. They are boys or men. They're going to be seen as men in public opinion, in the public court. And even with, and that's why I said, if you look at the next thing I said was, get off your moral high horse. Your morality is based in feminism today, but it was based in racism yesterday. So, you know, let's not play that game. You still have people that are vulnerable to being typecast as villains in everyday life. That happens to be black boys and black men, but it's like, you still got to use critical thinking, because that's what would happen. You give me 5 young black boys and they go assault the white woman and beat her half to death. They're all going to jail. That's it. They're gonna figure out some type of way to pin this on these kids, and that's all I'm getting at. And some people might not believe that, but it's like, just think about that headline popping up on Facebook tomorrow, on YouTube, on Twitter, on Instagram. Think about that popping up on The View, popping up on CNN, popping up on Fox. This is open and shut. If Donald Trump, or an equivalent, let's say this time around it's Mark Zuckerberg or Elon Musk, and he says Central Park 5 deserved a death penalty for what they did. #MeToo. They'll be applauded. They wouldn't be a bad guy. They wouldn't be racist. You know.
You made an excellent point. Let me back up. You said yesterday it was rooted in what, but today it's rooted in feminism. Can you help me understand, unpack that?
Yesterday, the thought process of these black boys being hypersexual and raping this woman and all those other things was rooted in racism, rooted in white purity, and rooted in hypersexualism of black men having hypersexuality, being stronger than everybody else, you know, all those other things. Now it's rooted in feminism. So it's the same end from different spectrums, which is that black boys are bad and they shouldn't be believed.
Wow. Wow, that's pretty intense.
Yeah.
You know, before we get to the fun stuff, because for people watching, just as they said in what was it, Star Wars, stay with me, Red Leader, stay with me.
Yeah.
I want you to tell us a story. I could read this, but I want you to do it.
All right.
Tell us a story about a house in a parking lot.
Oh man, dude. Okay, so that's my issue. So yeah, I write stories pretty well, but I actually like to tell stories much more. So this happened in 2004, 2005. This is right before, as we all know, that the housing crisis occurred in the United States. And so what wound up happening, there was a college apartment development that was going to be was getting built in this black neighborhood in my home city, Tuscaloosa, Alabama. And my parents are real estate agents. Both of them are. They own a real estate company. And so they got hired by this developer to negotiate with these black people in this neighborhood to sell their property. So my parents are going down there every week, offering money. And then on Twitter, I said they're getting offered 2 to 3 times. They're getting offered 2 to 3 times the market value for their home. So they're getting paid handsomely for their homes. They're getting a really good deal on this. And so it's right. Imagine 20 homes on one street and then another probably 60 homes on 2 other streets. So we're looking at 60 to 80 homes that are getting bought to build out this 2,000 unit apartment development. Everybody is selling. We're towards the end of the buying project, and this is one house that's refusing to sell. They offered them $300,000 on like a $75,000 property. The people say no. They keep telling my parents no. We're not selling, thinking that this would stop the development. Well, this doesn't stop the development. What winds up happening? They built out the full apartment complex, and they put up a concrete wall about 8 feet high all around this house and built a parking lot around it. And so it's a random residential home in the middle of a parking lot because they refuse to sell. Now, you know, I understand that people say, oh, that's my house, this and that and that. When they open the windows, they see a concrete wall where a neighbor used to be.
Wow. That's, you know, when you talk about a concrete wall and, you know, this is what it gets you, because everyone likes to believe that being the last holdout, being the last man on the mountain is the win. And if they recognize they were being given a great deal and they chose not to, now look at them. They're a random house in the middle of a parking lot surrounded by a stone wall with a house that's worth, I don't know, $5 or $6. Maybe you can get a buy one, get one free coupon and take it out there to get the house.
Yeah.
It's worth nothing.
It's worth nothing. And you still have a mortgage on it. There's still homeowners insurance
on that. They still have a mortgage.
You still got to pay light bills on that. You got to pay everything on that. Right? And everybody,
how your family and friends reacted to that? Like, how do you look at your friend? Like, do you just not mention it?
Dude, man, like, you know, seeing it happen, because I lived in Tuscaloosa until 3 years ago. So I look at it and I'm like, dude, come on, man. Like, because I was a teenager coming into adulthood when it happened. I went to college. I'm still seeing it. I'm visiting my friends in this apartment complex and I'm looking at this house, laughing to myself like, look, man, you could have got $300,000, paid off a mortgage, lived somewhere else in the city. You could live like two streets over. You'd have been fine. Everybody else sold but you. And now, because you made that line in the sand and you stuck to your guns, you're stuck forever. And when you die, nobody will be able to use that property for anything. You know?
So you effectively left your family nothing.
Effectively. You know, something that's really enjoyable. I mean, because why would you want to wake up to a concrete wall when you look out your bedroom window, or when you walk out the backyard, you see a concrete wall in a Honda Civic looking at you? You know, nobody wants. I mean, I don't see why you would want to do that, but that's what they did. And but to the point, it's about gentrification, right? There are consequences to selling, and there are consequences to staying, and you got to be okay with those consequences.
I've had a lot of talks about gentrification because a lot of places have been gentrified that when I was a young person, decent people couldn't go.
Yeah.
So we complain about the Starbucks, but there are places that when I was a kid, you know, visiting family and relatives in, say, New York City, you just couldn't go outside.
That's not good.
And now they're complaining because there are too many Starbucks, but you can walk your dog down the street and not get robbed.
What's wrong with Starbucks? I just had some Starbucks. You know, ain't nothing wrong with that. But this is the next point about gentrification, because real estate, the basis of real estate in the United States is the highest and best use of that property. That's what real estate is about. The highest and best use. If you're parking your car on the lawn every day, if your neighbors are robbing each other, if you can't keep the neighborhood clean, it's high crime, and somebody comes in and buys a property up and says, I'm gonna make this a safe area, what culture are you losing?
Well, I think, to be fair, I've had it explained to me that a lot of those people don't have any place else to go, because when you increase the value of a neighborhood, you increase the asking price for houses and apartments. So what effectively happens is that a lot of the poor people end up simply relocating to other poor neighborhoods.
Correct.
I can see it from that side. I mean, you and I have the privilege of being able to live where we choose, but
yeah,
there is no right answer other than, well, what's our alternative?
So this is the alternative. Clean your own neighborhood up. That's where you live at. If you kept your home, like, for instance, having a dirty neighborhood. I'm not going to talk about crime. We're not talking about graffiti. Just straight up trash on the ground. It doesn't cost anything to pick up trash. It costs nothing to throw trash on the ground. Okay? All you got to do is pick that trash up and keep it in the trash cans. If you did that in most areas, they would look much safer. Just that alone. If they kept these places clean. You know, you and I can go to any low-income area in the United States, and it's dirty. All right? It's dirty and unkept. Those things affect property value. Before we even introduce crime, those things cost nothing. And so it's like, all right, you're not taking care of this house. Why can't I come buy it from you and take care of it like it should be taken care of? Let me put a new coat of paint on there. Let me, keep everything fixed and up to date. And that's what people are doing. And then they get accused of gentrifying. Well, you didn't take care of it.
What's interesting is when I lived in Sydney, Australia, I lived in an area called Newtown on a really popular street called Street. And my apartment was not too far away from the main area.
Mm-hmm.
And I got this apartment at a killer price, and everything was pristine. And one of my friends said I moved in at the right time. I said, well, yeah, obviously I did. He said, what happened is a bunch of gay people moved into the neighborhood, cleaned it up. Now you can eat off the sidewalk. They gentrified it for a gay neighborhood, and it was arguably the cleanest, most well-kept neighborhood I have ever lived in. And that's saying a lot.
Yeah. But how much does that cost?
Well, they took a level of pride in having, because so many gay neighborhoods started out as gay ghettos. They were forced to live there. So yeah. I have friends who are older who talk about in San Francisco, somebody tell me if I'm wrong, it was the Castro district or the Tenderloin. There used to be a real just garbage dump, and they would dump all the gay people in there, and they just decided, we'll just clean it up. Now, there are news articles saying young gay couples can't even afford to move there.
Wow.
Because it used to be in the past, if you were gay in the middle of a country or a city that nobody wanted you, you could move there to be among your team, your tribe. And I for anybody who finds, you got to find your tribe. But they said it used to be where, you could be in your early 20s and go there, get a job, and just start living your best life. Now they said they can't afford it. And they're really upset that a bunch of straight families just went, wait a minute, I can buy this house for this much money out here?
Yeah. I mean,
and you're like, whoa, what are you doing in our neighborhood? You people wouldn't let us live over there. We build up. Wait a minute, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
Huh.
Yeah. But, and then we talk about, then it goes back to a couple things. I don't really know too much about the gay community in San Francisco or Australia, but what I'll say is that at the end of the day, even though these neighborhoods have importance culturally, because we have equal housing rights and equal housing laws, you can't tell somebody they can't live in your neighborhood.
Which you shouldn't.
You can't do that. I don't care if it's an all-black neighborhood and y'all like to listen to XYZ music or y'all like to do these things. You can't make it to where a person can't live in your neighborhood, because we fought for those things so we could live where we want to live. you know? And so again, it's like, how much does taking pride in your home cost? How much does that cost? You know, to keep everything tidy around your house. Those things are how you stop gentrification from happening. Because now, keep in mind, now there are some historical things, as you know, being in the finance and insurance industry, that where Black people live, banks basically lower our property values just off the bat. We have a lower property value where a lot of Black people live, with or without crime. So that is part of that. But the other part is, if we need to take better care of our properties, especially as we pass them on from one generation to the next. Because you have these older people in your family that are giving family, they give properties to their adult children after they die. The adult child is living on the other side of the country. They live on the other side of the city. They don't want to take care of it, and the house becomes, rented out to somebody who's not taking care of it, and it's a lot there.
They found personal experience, in my family, and I was born in Niagara Falls, New York, which a generation and a half to 2 generations ago was an amazing place, and now it's a shell of its former self. It's not a good place to be right now. Mm-hmm. But I know for certain that what happened in part of my family and a lot of families I saw is that those of us who grew up, got out, and got educated and left home, once you have to leave an area like that to start having the life you want. Going back there, even if the family owns a property there, it would be literally taking 10 steps backwards in life. And so you're stuck in the situation where there is a drain, and I talk about brain drain a lot with my friends. There is a drain of the best and brightest not being there.
Yeah, no, of course. And it's unfortunate, and we have, I think our community has a strong case of brain drain. Basically in every impoverished area in the United States that's Black, if there was a way for the Black people who made it out to stay there, it would be a different community. Unfortunately, as we all know, it's hard, and this goes back to what I was just saying, it's hard to be successful or reach a level of success and still be around the same Black people you was with. Not because they're Black.
Problems are unique to the Black community. It's just that any problem America has, we feel 10 times greater.
Right. And that's not because they're Black that they feel that way. It's not a race thing. It's that when you have a lot of impoverished people and people that don't have the level of education that you have, it's gonna be hard to interact with them. It's gonna be hard to find common ground outside of just race. And
well, I wrote something that I'll share with you before I get into this real issue that we're talking about of who chooses to be where.
Yeah.
And I wrote something called Poverty is a Choice. Correct. And I wrote that with a title that I have to really explain. What I wrote, and I'll read it to you, and I know it's considered rude to quote yourself. It's not something most people should do. But for the context of our conversation, I'll read this to you. Right. Poor people forge alliances based on race, religion, and location. Not poor people forge alliances based on education level and income while constantly trying to increase/improve both. Poverty is not a state of mind. And there's a difference, and I never say rich or poor because that's all relative, but the haves and the have-nots, the people that have choices, have enough money to say, if an accident happens, I can cover it, have enough money to say, if I choose to leave this job, I'll be okay, versus the have-nots, they base their world on 2 totally different sets of criteria.
Right.
And that, when you add race into it, it just muddles the water. But let me go back to what we said about brain drain as a clever segue. Are you and I guilty?
Of course. We're guilty all the way.
We bonded over Brazil. Now, I don't know how many countries you've lived in. I've lived in over 15 countries. And in every community of Black expats, shout out to the Black expats in Brazil community. For every group of expats that I meet that are Black, they are almost all, to the last person, university educated, able to succeed anywhere in the world and realize if I have a choice, why would I live in America? It's happened. I've seen it from Brazil to Thailand to my friends in Colombia to my friends in every country in the world over and over and over.
Yeah.
Are we part of the solution? Or are we part of the problem? Because I find myself guilty of encouraging those that come to me for advice, the young men who come to me for guidance, on doing the same thing.
I came to you.
And get out.
I came to you 8 months ago.
It's but are we part of the problem? Are we part of the reason that the communities aren't thriving?
This is what I would say, and this really helped me to go to where I'm at now. We have macro problems and micro problems.
Okay.
And some of our macro problems, I'm not going to fall on the sword and try to solve, because I'm going to waste my life doing that.
Okay.
I've learned that I'm not the savior of the Black race. I am responsible for me and my seed and who I choose to marry and have children with. That's who I'm most responsible for. You know, and the next thing I had to say is you familiar with my guy, what's his name? Not Robert F. Lewis, the first Black billionaire. He made a book called "Why Do White Men Get to Have All the Fun?" And
why do white men get to have all the fun?
Why do white men get to have all the fun? Reginald Lewis, it's the autobiography of Reginald Lewis, first Black billionaire. It's from the early 90s. And so anyway, that question stuck out to me. And it's like, why am I putting all of my best thoughts towards fixing my entire race, 40 million people, 42 million people, when I can focus that on my family? And so then I thought, well, why do white men get to have fun? And then I said, oh, I can live anywhere. I don't have to be beholden to just doing this thing that they tell us to do. All right, you're part of the 10 out of 10. You made it, Steve. You went to college and you started making money. Now you got to go back and give back to everybody. Hold up. Wait a minute. Nobody else has that level of
stigma
on them. Yeah, or that stigma, right? Why do I owe everybody else? Because I succeeded. Let me go do what I want to do, and I'll help us how I feel like I need to help us. But I can't go back and go do a bunch of after-school programs. No problem with that, by the way. But I can't live my life in a way where, because I am successful, I'm indebted to 42 million people. That's just not fair. That's not fair. Huh?
That's brutally enlightening. That's a level of truth that I think more people need to hear. Oh, speaking of, just doing things better, I tell people all the time, everybody and their brother, their sister, their mother, and their dog is selling something. Very few people can show the receipts. Very few people are able to say, hey, here's where it was and here's where it's going. Let me do something real quick. I want to show some people a few pictures, and you can see this too, before we even get into this conversation.
Yeah.
All right. Let me see here. Look at that. Look at that, people. Look at that. Okay. I want everybody to see. Here's what we're going to talk about. Here are the receipts. Here's why when Stephen was talking to people about, hey, maybe I can help some people get in shape, he wasn't kidding.
No.
Because I'm going to be clear. I was a fat kid growing up. I chose, I tell people all the time, I'm the man I chose to be, not the man I should have become. I was a fat nerd who wet the bed when he was a kid. I chose to get out and get something. You and I went different paths with our fitness route. I started lifting heavy ass weights and swelling up, and it looks like you went a more aesthetic route.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
Wait, is your six pack still in check?
Oh man, come on, dog. Come on, dog. I'm always ready, dog.
Yeah, you don't have to get ready if you stay ready. So
Oh,
the reason I want to talk about that, because listen, I have no intention. I've never been wanted a six pack out. I've always had the body of a wrestler and a lumberjack. I'm fine with that. But as I rapidly approach maturity, and just as you said earlier, you're older than you look. People have a hard time realizing I'm 42. I'll be 42 in a couple days, a couple of months.
Mm-hmm.
But as I rapidly approach maturity, I also don't want to walk around at 230 pounds anymore, because when you're 20 and 30 years old, being a 230-pound weightlifter is awesome.
Yeah.
But as you get older, I don't want that kind of weight. Like, I do cardio, not because cardio makes you lose weight, but I keep my heart in check. And I want to do this thing. I want to reduce myself down to my competitive jiu-jitsu weight of about 200 pounds or less before it's ever an issue. Because like I said, you can be massive when you're young. Your body and your joints can take it. And, you're hoisting all these giant weights in but as you get older, I don't want to test my joints. I've done that and been there, so I have no reason at all to try to prove anything to myself. I know what I can do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking about doing more and more of a sincere effort to lean out. And one of the things I learned is, just like when you start learning how to lift weights, can't do it alone. I've had some conversations with some trainers. The hard part is because I'm so used to the way I lift weights, and I've done quite a bit of research on it. What are you doing for people?
So this is what I've learned, and I've been lifting seriously now for going on 6 years. And for me, what I enjoy teaching people is that it's not all about the weights, right? Because you are a weightlifter and you got your muscles because you are a weightlifter. For me, I teach aesthetics. So aesthetics or bodybuilding is what the popular term for that. It's taught in a way where we're using the weights to look like something. It's not about how much you let lift. It's not about how much you weigh. We're going to look like something and we're going to feel like something. And so that's what I'm teaching. I teach guys, I don't put any people on the weight scale. If you get to looking like you should look, you're going to be in shape. You're going to be a good size, a good weight. I think the guy that you showed, that's Josh. He was at 245, 250 at 6'4". He's at 205 now. Looks great. We never weighed him the whole time. And so I just taught him, hey, look, your shoulders are supposed to look like this. For them to look like this, we need to train with these angles. We need to train with these contractions. All right, it needs to feel this way. And we don't have to lift 315 on bench press for you to have a chest that looks like this, because I want to save your joints so you can do this the rest of your life. So I'm teaching people to train in a way that's not intense on their joints. They're not going to hurt themselves. They're never going to get under any weight that will put themselves at risk for injury. And they can do this for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years. So that's what I'm teaching them. It's old school bodybuilding, old school bodybuilding techniques.
Maybe we'll have to have a private offline discussion.
Yeah.
Because I'm famous for, I like these hard 1 hour, like, are you familiar with the Golden Six?
Talk to me about it.
The Golden Six is a very, very, very old style of weightlifting. It was even before Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he uses it. It's called the Golden Six because it's 6 intense exercises. I'll give you a quick
list or what?
I'm going to give you the basic workout and then how I change it. 4 sets of 10 squats, 3 or 4 sets of 10 dumbbell bench press or bar bench press, 3 sets to failure chin ups. I do behind the neck cable pull downs or wide grip chin ups instead.
Yeah.
Behind the neck overhead presses, 4 sets of 10. With dumbbells or a bar. Barbell curls, 3 or 4 sets of 10. And instead of sit-ups, I do dips. I focus on my triceps instead. And that workout inside of an hour, when you're using heavy weight, that will, go home and have to sit under the shower. But when you do that every other day, you start being able to just lift mountains.
Yeah, so, well, it's a concept.
Say that again. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
That concept you're talking about promotes hypertrophy, which is for the guys who don't know, it promotes muscle growth. So if you want to grow at like the level that Wateef is here, or any of those levels, you take down the you increase your rest time, you lift real heavy, and you do that 3 or 4 times out the week, and you eat. If you do that, you're gonna grow. And I do something like that, Wateef, and I really enjoy it. I probably do it once. I probably do it 2 months out the year. I just stronger for a little while, and yeah, if you're not paying attention, you'll gain 15, 20 pounds.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, then you get somebody like me who is an eater. You know, people like, why do you exercise so much? Then they watch me eat and realize I got to stay ahead of this. I got to stay ahead of this because, you know, for me, lunch might be half a gallon of water and an entire roasted chicken.
That's pretty doable. I could probably get with you on that roasted chicken.
You know,
yeah, I could probably do roasted chicken with you.
And speaking of Brazil, you know, how much do we enjoy living in a place where quality food is extraordinarily affordable? Can we, you know, we've been so sick. Can we imagine how awesome living in Brazil is? Can we just make some people jealous?
Look, okay, let's talk about that. All right. So, okay, I've lived in Canada and I've lived in Brazil and I've lived in like 10, 15 cities in the United States. Brazil, this cough I have is because of American dairy products. American dairy products make me cough all the time. Down in Brazil, I can drink whole milk fine. No cough, no nothing. A regular meal, and it might be a little bit more in Sao Paulo, but in Salvador, a normal meal at a restaurant, like a buffet, on the buffet lines. Do y'all have buffet lines in Sao Paulo?
Yeah, it's a Brazilian thing, the por kilo restaurant, where for people who don't know, you can go to a restaurant and they have a price per pound of food. So whatever you put on your plate, they just weigh it and that's what you eat. So if you want to eat a plate of chicken breasts or a plate of rice and beans or a mixed plate, whatever you want, they do it by weight.
Yeah, so you go there and it's probably what?
Have you ever had somebody get mad at you for loading your plate up with nothing but meat?
I haven't done that. I go to
they just looked at me like, really, you gonna do this to us? Really?
Oh yeah, I'm about to get the expensive stuff. Yeah. So anyway, so the main concept with those is you can really eat a healthy meal. So for like 15 reais, which is like $3, I think.
Let's call it $4 to be expensive.
Yeah, $4 for lunch, and you're eating steak, you're eating chicken, you're eating fish, you're eating rice, onions, cucumber, tomatoes.
Yeah.
And and you eat that lunch, you don't feel sleepy afterwards. Like you can eat a lot of food there, man. You can eat feijoada.
I can only do that twice a month. I have a limit. Feijoada is all the food that will just make you fat and go to sleep.
Dude, I love feijoada, man. I eat feijoada twice a week.
Well, see, you can pull that. I can't. I eat feijoada, and just as quick as I gain muscle, I'll just be hanging down.
Yeah, I eat feijoada probably twice a week, maybe 3 times a week. It all depends. But I'm very active. I'm very, very active in Brazil. So it's just amazing, like how little sugar they eat in Brazil, how little salt they add to their food, how they don't. I just don't see people snacking. They just don't snack.
No, they eat full meals. When it's time to eat, it's time to eat.
And they eat a lot. The portion sizes in Brazil are insane. Like the first 2 weeks, I couldn't finish eating my food because it was so much food. And I'm like, dude, how are y'all doing this, man? Like, I can eat a lot of food, but like they just had so much food, and I realized that the more active I became, like a Brazilian, the easier it was for me to eat all my food. But the food, and then the fruit in Brazil is insane, man. That's probably the thing that stuck out to me the most. The fruit there is next level. You know, as far as selection, and you can get, dude, you don't buy orange juice from the store.
You go to a place and they just
it's 1 reais. That's like a quarter.
Well, for where you are, it's a little cheaper, and São Paulo it's a little bit more expensive. But we get the difference. You know, and if I'm not mistaken, just like I train in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and though I am lapsed, I want to tell everybody out there, I have fallen for it. I started letting some other things I was doing get in the way of class time. Y'all can see I keep this here to remind myself I'm got to get back in. But you study capoeira, correct?
Correct. Yeah.
I don't claim to know more than what I've seen in a few videos. Can you give it to us?
All right, so capoeira is a Afro-Brazilian martial art that came from Angola, and in Salvador, because Salvador is one of the main places that slaves were sold at in Brazil. Capoeira is like super popular. Like it's capoeira, fojo, jiu-jitsu. Everybody does it. All right. Most people start when they're children. They'll just fall off later on, but it's still a lot of adults that do capoeira. You'll see it at 11 o'clock at night on the sidewalk. You'll see it on the beach. You'll see it at festivals and parties. You'll see it at birthday parties, man. People do it everywhere. And so yeah, so it's an Afro-Brazilian martial art. It's more of a defense than an offense. The style is it's disguised as a dance, and that's how the slaves were able to practice it and teach it to each other because they were singing and playing instruments while they were training capoeira. So as you learn how to fight in capoeira, you also learn how to sing the songs. You learn how to play all the instruments because that's what it took to deceive the masters that you were learning a fight style. And then so you got Angola and what they call Regional, which is regional.
What is the difference?
Angola is a more it's a much slower pace. So you might play Angola style capoeira for an hour with one person. But regional or regional, as they say in Portuguese, that style you might do for a minute, 2 minutes, 3 minutes tops. It's very, very fast as opposed to one style that's very slow.
Is there a difference in technique?
Yes and no. In Angola, because it's much slower, you can see a kick coming. So it's not necessarily about actually hitting that person. Neither style is about really hitting somebody, but in Angola, if you were to get hit by a kick, it's a soft, like a slow tap, right?
Okay.
You're not paying attention in regional capoeira, you can get knocked out. I saw a guy get hit, he had a seizure.
What I'm saying is in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, where strangling people is kind of part of what you do, seeing somebody be unconscious, that sounds more sadistic than it really is.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, so those are the two styles of capoeira, and if you ever get a chance to come to Salvador, you ever get a chance to come to Brazil, I suggest learning one of the Brazilian martial arts, whether that's jiu-jitsu or capoeira.
Well, do you know somebody named Kali Vaz?
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, that's my girl, yeah.
She's in the chat. She says she's watching from Brazil, from Bahia.
Bahia.
Yeah.
Or meu bem.
So she's in the side chat.
Yeah. I sent her the link.
Good. Yeah. Well, listen, I'm glad we had a chance to do this. And what I want to do is say, I'm really going to insist that you become part of one of my roundtables, especially the ones that have to do with Brazil. You're coming back. You're going to be enjoying the hot sun. You're going to be in your capoeira, but you got to make some time on the weekends to hang out with us online and kind of share some more of this wisdom.
Yeah, I'll pop in, man. I'm excited to be back, man. I think that, I have a lot of Americans. They'll say, Steve, man, how's Brazil? And I say, look, man, Brazil is the blackest place you're going to go unless you go to Africa. Y'all don't know about Sao Paulo, but I know about Bahia and Salvador. It's the blackest place you're going to go, man. And for so many black people, I think that, and obviously it's good and bad in Salvador, but I think that what black people have there is very special compared to what we see in the United States. It's hard to put my finger on it, but they're a lot more connected to each other, and they're a lot more connected to the black experience. And
when I came here, my intention, I came because São Paulo is a great financial and business hub. But I've only visited Salvador. I went to Carnival there a while back.
Oh yeah,
went to Carnival there a while back.
Carnival, man, is amazing.
Yeah. Well, what I will always tell people about Carnival, people ask me, is Carnival good? I say, listen, if you're gonna visit Brazil, go to Carnival in Rio for a couple of days. Go to São Paulo for a couple of days. Go to Salvador. But the best time to visit Brazil, and I don't know if you were here then, the 6 to 8 weeks before Carnival. Were you here?
Oh yes, I was here for 6 weeks before Carnival. Yeah.
Tell them why that's a special time.
Dude, it's like Carnival, but it's safe. It's way safer, man. Like it's parties everywhere. Everybody's like anticipating Carnival. Like everybody's practicing and getting ready for it, and It'll be like a random party on a Tuesday. It'll be parties through the weekend. They have like these pre-carnival parties that are just
That are
so
called
much
ensayos.
inside. See, I never knew the name of them, but you know, the schools, all the schools and all the blockos would practice throughout the city. So you would hear like drums everywhere. It's always music playing, man. It's a really festive time. Like imagine like the lead up to Christmas, but it's the middle of summer and it's party all the time. That's the same concept.
Well, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to actually put in the comment section a link to. There are a couple of ensayos I went to that were just really, really awesome. You know, one of the things I talk about all the time is when you go to the ensayos, you get to see all the performances they're just considering for Carnival, but it's in an atmosphere where everybody's just having fun. There's no
man. Me and Callie, we went to this festival probably 2 weeks before Carnival. And Callie, if you want here, please comment about this. And so like they had all these drummers and they're playing for like 3 hours prior to this concert starting. Everybody's following the drummers and everything, and people are dancing. Pagoji or something. Not, I think it's Pagoji. But the dance and everything, man, it's just like I had never seen anything like that. You know, and I haven't really posted a lot of that stuff online because I'm just like I kind of want to keep Brazil to myself. I don't want a bunch of Americans coming and ruining it for me. But man, it's amazing. It's amazing how much fun they have. You know?
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, I don't know about Sao Paulo, but I can speak on Salvador.
You know, Sao Paulo is a very different atmosphere because here it's a business and culture hub in a very different way. But it's just like any country. You know, you have very different ideas. You have, you know, just very, very different feelings. The reason you go to Salvador is going to be very different from the reason you go to Rio or Sao Paulo.
I agree. But yeah, man, if I would say more people need to come to Salvador, not for to the point that we were getting at earlier, which is about the black people in the United States, right?
Mm-hmm.
Once you leave the United States, you understand that we're not the only black people. We're not the only black people that are not in Africa. You know, it's 100 million black people in Brazil, or they have African descent. It might be even more than that. It's 100 million of those people, and they're looking at us. They're consuming black culture in Brazil. The black Brazilians are, and they're seeing it from the TV, but they need to see us in person. We need to share ideas, and we need to get past that language barrier because we have a lot of tools that we need to share with them so they can continue to liberate themselves. Whether it's freeing their mind, whether it's learning more about financial literacy, and whether it's learning more about, hey, how can I get to the United States and send my child to college up there, and whatever it is. There's some black kids in Brazil. They need to go to HBCUs in the United States.
Kali just commented it's the best carnival in the world.
It is the best carnival in the world. I will co-sign that. Okay.
I'm guessing Kali is Brazilian, right?
She's a Baiana, yeah, she's Brazilian.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. Well, listen, you have a great night. Thank you.
We done here, YT?
Yeah. It's been about an hour. I know you had some things to do.
Oh yeah, man. I'm over here doing a million things with you, but it's all good, man. If you got any other questions, hey, let's talk about it.
You know, if you check your WhatsApp, let me send you something real quick, and I'm going to say it privately. That way, I don't say it publicly, so that the crowd doesn't know what we're saying.
Yeah, perfect. Appreciate it. You got WhatsApp on your computer?
Technology.
Oh, that's amazing. No, I didn't know. If I could get on WhatsApp on my computer, I'd be. Yeah, add her to the chat. Yeah.
Well, here's the thing. Can you send me her email address, Kali? We're going to add you to the chat. We're going to add you. I'm going to send you the joining link. So what I want you to do is I want you to, Stephen, I want you to send me her email address, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to send her the link. And yep.
I got you. I'm going to send it to you now. If I can find her email. Where is it at? Yeah, man. Let's get us a Brazilian on here. Brasileira. me find it for you real quick. Here we go. Boom, I got it. Her email address is right here.
Don't say it out loud because you don't want a bunch of knuckleheads emailing.
No, we ain't gonna do it like that, man. Ain't gonna have them emailing Callie and add her on Google Hangouts. Let's see if we can get her on here. See if she's available to talk.
All right, Callie, what I want you to do right now is to go to your computer, and I want you to click the link that I just sent you. It's going to come from me, YusefWateef, but I want you to also check your trash in case it went there by accident. You can tell us a little bit more about where you're from and what you do in Brazil.
Oh, yeah, man. Oh, Callie. About to see Callie in a little bit, man. In a few days, I'll see Callie. Yeah, man, Callie's a really interesting person. She's traveled in Europe.
Okay.
If we can get her on there, she can talk a little bit more about that. I don't know if she's gonna join or not, but yeah, man, it's what's interesting to me, Wateef, is how much more Black Brazilians have traveled compared to Black Americans. I met a lot of Black Brazilians that were very well traveled, and they make a much lower income than Black Americans do.
How did they pull it off?
Dude, they just saved, man. They just saved their money and went. Like, I mean, that's just what it was, man. They just like saved for a year or 6 months or however they had to do it. I know people have been to China, been to Portugal, been to Australia, been to the United States, a lot of them. And I can't say the same for us.
But again, now we may be doing a selection bias here. The example I will give you is that when someone meets you or me or one of our friends, they'll say, wow, Black Americans are awesome. But they have to remember, I can say without any pompousness, they're only seeing the most ambitious, most able to succeed top percent.
No, you're right.
It's true that we've self-selected. Like anyone that you meet in Brazil, I suspect is going to probably be someone with your level of drive, your level of this, and your level of that. So to say they do this, I don't think we or any of our friends represent the statistical norm. One of the things I learned in finance, for example, the 20% rule. It's extraordinarily rare to find someone who has a friend who makes more or less than 20% they do.
Wow.
Because that's a buffer zone. Your lives become too different after 20%.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. Wow, I didn't know that. That's the truth, though.
So just by definition, consider this. When you met Callie Vaz, she spoke English, right?
Correct.
She had already seen the world, right?
Correct.
What are the odds on you two randomly meeting as a Black man who's traveled the world and is studying Portuguese? What are the odds on you two just meeting randomly? The odds are actually very low. You just run in concentric circles.
Yeah, we do.
You are going to meet because you're in the same world. I don't know if that makes sense. So it's very easy. We have to make sure. By the way, can you message her, see if she got it?
I'm about to see now. Can you join the chat? No, but you're completely right, because just being an English speaker already in a college educated person, it shrinks the circle of people you're going to be dealing with anyway. And then
one of the most valuable lessons I learned. Oh, go ahead.
I'm listening to you. No, I'm listening to you. Well, I was saying that I was basically just going to my point was that because
you said
because a person speaks English as their second language in that type of country, they're going to be able to talk to people who speak English. So it makes.
Did we lose you?
No, you didn't lose me. I'm good. I'm here. You got me, Wateef?
Okay.
I'm there.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So what I was saying was basically like, because I speak English in a Portuguese-speaking country, the people I'm going to meet it's a much smaller amount of people I'm going to meet that I can actually talk to, because they all speak Portuguese for the most part. That was the point I was trying to make.
Exactly. One of the biggest lessons I learned from one of my professors my freshman year. He said, raise your hand. He said, raise your hand if you're a minority. And a couple of people raised their hands. And one guy said, well, I'm a Native American. I'm a Comanche. He said, sit down. That's not the reason. A woman raised her hand. She said, well, I'm a lesbian. Nah, sit down. That's not really the reason. Somebody else said, well, I'm just black and I'm the first person in my family to go to college. Professor said, no, that's not it either. He said, once you have any higher education at all, you become part of the smallest minority in the history of man, and that is educated people. There aren't that many. But you don't know that because once you're in the circle, odds are one of your parents was, even if you're the anomaly that wasn't. But once you're in the circle, you will hardly ever associate with people out of it, even though you're not being stuck up. They're just not going to be in your circle.
Yeah, no, I agree. And to your point, because you've been kind of skirting around the socioeconomic conversation, but to your point, the stronger your vocabulary, the more money you make. And so those people have, I think it says something like the average felon has like a vocabulary of like 20,000 words or something like that. But the average person who makes six figures has a vocabulary of like 80,000 words. So they can express themselves in a much more nuanced way, and they can think in a more nuanced way. So because of that, it's like they're speaking a whole nother language, you know? And so when you have that very high vocabulary with a whole bunch of words you can use, you become foreign to everybody else. And vice versa. That person who has 20,000 words cannot hold a conversation because they don't have the words to fill in their real thoughts and feelings.
You know, you just validated. By the way, I hope you can produce some reading on what you just said. But you just validated something I've long told people. I said, I don't necessarily believe that my thoughts or ambitions are in any way unique or special. My ability to articulate what those thoughts and ambitions are and what I want to get them, those are the difference. My ability to say it the right way.
Correct.
And that's, yeah. I mean, a lot of people don't know this. Long before I was a writer, and for those who don't know, I do editing, copy editing, proofreading, but I also do some ghostwriting. I specialize in persuasive speech. But long before I was ever a writer, I did public speaking as a child.
Oh, yeah.
You know, I was born with a lisp, and my grandmother, who had done public speaking she was born in 1910, I think. I would like to have said that my school had the resources to cure my speaking impediment, but it didn't. My grandmother standing me in front of her with books. I mean, I was reading poetry from the turn of the century, chapters out of books, states names. Again, say it again, read it again, read the chapter from me again, read it again. By the time I went to school, I could speak as if I'd never had a speech impediment. And then by that time, I was able to do public speaking.
Right.
And I really
goes far.
That.
That goes really far, though, you know, because the stronger your vocabulary in your native language, man, the sky's the limit.
Yeah.
You know, and
my parents did a great job of making sure. My mother made sure I could read 3 grade levels ahead when I was a child. I didn't know that was what she was doing. My father was giving me books that were way above my head. Mm-hmm. I didn't know that by the time I hit high school and college, I had such an enormous advantage that it was like lapping the competition.
Oh yeah, it's nothing, man. There's nothing to it. I don't know. I don't think Callie gonna hop on here, YT. We're gonna have to go in here.
Gotcha. Well, listen, we'll have to do it again another time, all right?
For sure, man. I'll be back in Brazil here just like that. And
all right.
I'm excited, man. But anyway, look, man, we'll talk now. I appreciate it.
All right, yeah, good night.
You too.
Bye-bye.